Hi everybody, Nathan Ronen, CFA here with another update. Actually, this update is about employment advice and how the CFA should be discussed during an employment interview. If you'd like to hear more about this or you think this is relevant to you and you'd like to continue receiving these updates, please press the subscribe button and the confirmation button now so that you can continue to receive these updates about the CFA program or even sometimes about employment advice and interviews as they get placed every week or 2 weeks on our YouTube channel. I get this question very often, usually in email format, not via text message so much, but via email, people soliciting advice. And one of the questions I get asked a lot is, Nathan, I'm interviewing for jobs, I'm struggling, I know it's a bad economy out there, but any advice you can give me about, what I should say during interviews, especially when it comes to the CFA program and what I should highlight for them. And I think this is a great question because when I was working at New York Life Investment Management and I was actually interviewing candidates for a position in the compliance area, and I was interviewing it sometimes by myself or with the chief financial officer, chief compliance officer, there were questions that we'd ask, potential employees. And sometimes if they actually were in the CFA program, or even if they had the name or the letters CFA after their name, one of the natural questions was to ask them, why did you pursue the CFA and how did you pursue it? But we didn't do it like this question and that question. We sort of followed through because we wanted to learn more about the candidate. We wanted to learn more about the potential employee. Is he honest or is she honest? Are they dishonest? Do they have a solid reason for why they're pursuing finance? Do they really know what they're doing? Or are they just looking for a job? So we obviously want to get the right fit. And, credentials are great, but if you can't really explain why you went after a particular credential, whether it be a PhD, an MBA, a CFA, a CPA, a CFP, then it calls into question sort of your credibility in a way. As to why you do things or what your interests truly are, and is the person in front of me really going to be the best person for the position that I'm hiring. So a couple of times, and these are true stories, I've seen people sort of like flip-flopping about why they pursued the CFA program or how they went about it. So one of the questions that many times employers might ask you, and if they do ask you about the CFA program, they might say, hey, I see you're a charter holder, CFA. When did you get your charter? And you could say, oh, whatever, 2018, 2019, whatever year it was. Great. Just out of curiosity, I mean, we don't really need the CFA for somebody to have for the position that we're hiring. I mean, we do have other positions where it might be helpful, but just tell us a little bit more about you. Why'd you pursue the CFA? Because I hear that's an amazing, journey. It's an amazing, path to pursue. Why'd you pursue it? If you're not ready for that question, it's not going to look very good. But so you should have not a, practiced out answer, but you should know why you pursued the CFA. When I was asked that question, I basically said to them, I told them the truth. I had gone to my undergraduate studies at Binghamton University, and I had majored in management science. There was a strong finance component to it. But even after I completed my bachelor's degree in management science, my BS, companies would still try to test and didn't believe that I had, financial skills or analytical skills, and they would ask me all kinds of questions to see how I would analyze a stock or how would I recommend a stock and so on. This kind of made me feel a little jittery. And then they'd say, this was actually from a Goldman Sachs person, because I remember this from a HR and from one of the people that was interviewing me. They said, you got a great background, got great grades, you went to a good undergraduate school, you have a lot of languages in your background, we love that. But you know what, I think you should really beef up on your finance skills and you might want to pursue an MBA. And of course, once I went to get the MBA, they still asked me about my finance skills when I interviewed. They still gave me scenarios. But once I pursued the CFA, it all stopped. So one of the things that I would answer during the interview is I'd say, well, actually I pursued the CFA because even though I have an MBA and a bachelor's in finance, I felt that the CFA gave me the honed analytical skills that I need to look at different types of investments and how to value them and how to manage the risk in a portfolio using these asset classes, whether they're fixed income, debt, derivatives, or alternative investments. I have these more honed analytical skills that I'd like to use on the job. Now, that might not impress you, and that's fine, but it did satisfy the interviewers at that time. That's one way you could try to answer the question of why you pursued the CFA. And then the other question they asked was, how did you pursue the CFA? Did you, did you use any kind of services, or did you go to take classes? And I said, actually, well, what I did was the CFA Institute, because this was back in 1996, 1997, so that's a while ago. I actually bought all the textbooks. I told them because they were textbooks at that time. I bought all the textbooks from the CFA Institute as part of the registration process, because I was really interested in reading those textbooks because they had a lot of information and a lot of cases and a lot of scenarios from the real world that I was interested in. So I actually read those books. And then in order to more appropriately practice for the exam, I did take a class at the local CFA Society on a weekly basis from about 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock in the evening. And I had an amazing instructor who basically took the material that I had read in the books and showed me how I needed to know it for the exam. And so I used a combination of using the CFA books, because in those days we didn't have mock exams from the CFA Institute. We didn't have a Q bank or anything like that. The exams were actually disclosed, the answers were disclosed as well. So I told him I read the CFA books and I used a local society weekly course to, sort of clean up and understand things the way I needed to for the exam. And so that was very impressive. They were okay with it. Sometimes I got the job interviews, I got the next job interview, or I didn't get the job or whatever, but it satisfied the people's curiosity. Now, one of the things I found is when I asked that question, it really did not impress my chief financial officer who was sitting next to me when we asked that question, well, how did you study for the CFA exam? Well, actually, I have a real love for finance, was what the person said. I have a passion for finance. They told us all this, key buzzwords that they wanted to hear about how much they are dedicated to a career in finance. They love finance and all that kind of stuff. And so we asked the question, well, how did you study for the CFA exam? Level 1, level 2, level 3. Oh, well, I bought XYZ prep notes and I did some mock exams. And then I went and I took the exam and I watched some videos. And we said, well, why did you do that? Did you actually read the CFA books? Oh, no, I didn't read the CFA books. They're too lengthy, too much material in there. I didn't really have the time to read that stuff. And then my actual boss said, well, wait a second. You just told me you had a passion for finance. You told me you love finance. You want a career in finance. You're dedicated to finance. You've been eating, sleeping, breathing finance since you were 3 years old. Well, if you have such a passion for finance, wouldn't you want to know everything about finance? Why wouldn't you read that whole encyclopedia or read that material and study from the CFA curriculum? Why did you use shortcuts? You have a passion, don't you? And so the candidate or the candidates have looked at us and they didn't know what to answer. And it was very clear, they don't have a passion for finance. They were just looking at the letters CFA after their name. And that called into question their whole application and whether they were really the best candidate for the job. Okay? So those are kinds of things that you might want to consider when you're undertaking a job interview, is how you answer that question about why you pursued the CFA and how you studied for the CFA program. Don't lie, but be ready for that kind of question. And somebody might question your total commitment to finance if you're showing them just that you did shortcuts with prep books or prep materials. Okay, that's my 2 cents for today. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me at Chalk and Board. That's Chalk and Board. That's CHALKAND, Chalk and Board, BOARD. And I'd be happy to answer any other questions. My email is there, my phone number. If you have any questions about this particular, employment advice video, you might not agree with everything that I say, that's fine. Or if you have any questions about the CFA program, reach out. I'm happy to help you out. Good luck to you on whatever job interviews you have. And remember, why you pursued the CFA and how did you pursue it. Have a good evening.